What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you 5 reasons to buy the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G in 2022. Now before we go any further, as always, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to learn more about this phone, be sure to check out my full review and tips and tricks videos for it as well. But with that being said, let's get started. So my first reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G in 2022 is the display. Now with this phone, we're getting a 6.4-inch 90Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 411, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 83.7%. So this display is real high quality. As far as the size goes, it's pretty much the perfect size. At 6.4 inches, you're getting the benefits of having a larger display. So when you're consuming content, whether you're streaming videos, playing games, looking at photos, reading, whatever you're doing, things are going to show up nice and large on this display, and everything is going to be pretty easy to see. In addition to this, with the 20:9 aspect ratio, we're getting some pretty good dimensions here. So we got a taller and more narrow form factor, and this is going to give you a more immersive experience in landscape mode, for example. So again, if you're streaming videos, looking at photos, even playing a game, things are going to look a lot better with this kind of aspect ratio as opposed to a phone with a shorter and wider form factor. And when you're doing things like reading, say you're reading an article or something like that, you'll be able to fit more content on the screen without having to scroll as much. So as far as the size and dimensions go, the display of this phone is really good. And of course, the quality is great as well. With the 1080p resolution, we're getting a nice, sharp, crisp image. And thanks to the Super AMOLED display, we're getting some real bright and bold colors. And the viewing angles in general are really good as well. And last but not least, this phone does have a 90Hz refresh rate, and this is going to make movement on the screen a little bit faster and smoother. So if you're watching a video, playing a game, anything with motion on the screen, you're going to get a better experience. And when you're just navigating through the phone in general, it's going to feel a little bit more premium. So if you're going to be doing lots of content consumption and you want a phone with a really good display, then the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is going to be a great choice for you. Now my second reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G in 2022 is the camera. Now with this phone, we got a water drop notch up here for the front-facing camera. Maybe not the best looking compared to the hole punch design on the A53 5G, but it still does look pretty decent. And as far as functionality goes, this camera is 13 megapixels and it's pretty good. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So in general, this phone does have a real good camera setup. So if you're taking lots of photos and you want a wider variety of features, maybe you want to get really close up detailed images with the macro camera, but you're also taking lots of vacation photos, stuff with scenery, maybe a skyline picture, or even a group photo, then the ultra wide camera is going to be great for that as well. So it's nice that this phone has all these different features. In addition to this, not only do we get a bunch of different features, but the quality of the actual photos is also really good. To give you an idea of what this phone can do, here's some photos taken with the main camera. Definitely some real nice photos. So if you're taking a lot of them, whether it's for social media or something else, no matter what you're taking photos for, this phone will get the job done. Now, of course, it's nowhere near the level of a $1,000 flagship phone or something like that. But at the same time, again, if you do want to get some nice photos, this phone is going to be a great choice. Now here's a photo taken with portrait mode. Again, real nice looking. The colors are bright, the details are really sharp and professional, and the background is blurred really nicely. So in general, if you want to take some nice portrait photos, I know portrait mode is really popular with stuff like Instagram, for example, then the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is going to be a great choice for that. Now here's a photo taken with the ultra-wide camera, same kind of thing. The details, colors, everything looks really nice and the photo is really bright as well. And considering that this is an ultra-wide photo, one thing I do appreciate about it is the distortion really isn't that bad. Usually with an ultra-wide camera, you're going to get some kind of distortion around the edges, but with this phone, it does look really good. And if you actually want to keep this photo and use it for something, it definitely is usable. Now here's a couple photos taken with a macro camera. Now I'm usually not a huge fan of macro cameras. I don't personally use them a whole lot, but whenever I have, the photos they take typically end up being pretty mediocre. But with this phone, the macro camera is actually really good. The details are super sharp and I really like how the focus is done. So if you do want a phone with a good macro camera, then this phone is a great choice for that. So as you could see from those photos, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is great for pictures. So if you are a more frequent camera user, then this phone is going to be a great choice. And then for video, this phone can shoot in 4K in both the rear and front cameras, which by the way is an improvement from its predecessor, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, that could only shoot 4K in the rear camera. Now I'm not really sure how many of you are actually going to be shooting 4K videos, but I personally really like to take the occasional high quality video, so I really appreciate this feature. Now to give you an idea of what this phone can do video-wise, here's a 4K video sample taken with this phone. Now of course, the video you're watching is in 1080p, so you're not actually going to be seeing it in 4K obviously, but you can at least get an idea here of the overall quality. In general, it's really just like the photo quality. Everything looks really good, the details are super sharp. Sure, it's not going to be anywhere near the level of something like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, but for a mid-range device, if you do want to shoot the occasional 4K video, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G does do a really good job of it. Now my third reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G in 2022 is the battery. With this phone, we're getting a 5000 mAh battery that supports 25 watt fast charging. So not only are we getting a really large battery, pretty much the largest battery you can get in a smartphone, but we're also getting really powerful fast charging. So if you are in a situation where you need to quickly charge up your phone, this is definitely going to save you quite a bit of time. And compared to a lot of other phones in this price range, 25 watt fast charging, while not being really unusual per se, is definitely not something you see in every phone. Typically, you're going to see somewhere between 15, 18 watts. And while this doesn't make a huge difference in and of itself, it is something to keep in mind if you want the best features available. And then of course, having a large battery is going to come with all kinds of benefits. For one, of course, a 5000 mAh battery is going to get a ton of battery life throughout the day. And depending on how you use your phone, it could be multiple days for that matter. And down the road, as the battery degrades, which all batteries do, you're not going to notice it nearly as quickly with this phone, since you're already going to be starting out with so much more battery life than you need just to get through the day. So in general, if battery is a big concern for you, then the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is going to be a great choice for that. My fourth reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G in 2022 is the processor. Now with this phone, we're getting 6GB of RAM with the Samsung Exynos 1280 processor. Now keep in mind, there are several different variants out there. Seeing that this is a Samsung Galaxy A series, that's not really surprising. For whatever reason, they always do this, but just know there are variants with 4GB, 6GB, and 8GB of RAM. And this phone in this video is the one with 6GB of RAM, but depending on where you get your phone, this might be different. Now that being said, I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 740 and a multi-core score of 1874. Now, if you're not really familiar with this kind of test, this might not really mean a whole lot to you. So what I recommend doing is running a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on your current device and then comparing your scores to these to see whether or not this phone would be an upgrade for you. Because who knows, maybe you have an older flagship phone or something like that that's faster. But I just know from running this test so many times on so many different phones, this is actually a really good score. And this phone in general is really fast. So no matter what you typically use your phone for, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is most likely going to get the job done. Now, is it going to be anywhere near the level of something like an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra? Of course not, those are flagship phones and this is a mid-range phone. But again, for a more mid-range budget phone, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is definitely one of the faster ones in its price range. And in addition to this, of course, as the name suggests, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G obviously is a 5G phone, so you're going to get that 5G connectivity, access to the latest and greatest technology, all that kind of stuff. And while 4G phones aren't really bad per se, and 4G is not going away anytime soon, so if you have a 4G phone and decide to keep it, then of course it's not the end of the world. I do think in this day and age, in 2022, getting a 5G phone is definitely not a bad idea, so seeing that this phone does have 5G connectivity is of course a great thing. Now my fifth reason to buy the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G in 2022 is because it has NFC. Now in case you don't know what it is, NFC is the technology behind mobile contactless payment services, so stuff like Google Pay, Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, Amex Pay, all those kind of tap and pay services. So if you don't have NFC, you can't use any of those. And while nowadays it's not really common for phones in this price range at least to not have it, there still is a fair share of them that don't. So it's nice to see that with the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G, we are getting that feature. But those were 5 reasons to buy the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G in 2022. In general, I do think this is a great device, and honestly there are way more than 5 reasons to buy this phone, but this phone also does have its drawbacks that you might want to keep in mind, so if you want to learn more about that, be sure to check out my full review and other videos about the phone on the channel. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found the information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. But as always, I will see you in the next video.